You're listening to the BBM Global Network with 25 years in broadcast audio and video production. Our passionate team creates content and marketing for the world of Internet Talk Radio. If you've got a passion, come join us at bbmglobalnetwork.com. The BBM Global Network. Your voice is now heard.
This is Naturally Recovering Autism with your host, Karen Thomas. After being told her son could not recover from his symptoms of autism, Karen began a long crusade. It took over a decade of personal research and experience, and now she has brought her son back to recovery. Join Karen and utilize what she has to share from her knowledge and personal experience. So please welcome the host of Naturally Recovering Autism, Karen Thomas.
Well, hi there and welcome back. You are listening to Naturally Recovering Autism, and I am your host, Karen Thomas. And we are coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. Thanks for joining us. Today we have a very special guest and a very special topic that a lot of parents are really unaware of. And even when they're tested, are often either misdiagnosed or these things will mimic the symptoms of autism. And I'm talking about things like Lyme's disease and mold biotoxin illnesses and PANS and PANDAS, if you've heard of that, which means a streptococcal infection. So there are a lot of other issues that need to be addressed with children with autism, not just the foundational. We talked about last week, the gut healing and the heavy metal detoxification naturally, and other things you can do. But this is a very important topic. And I have with us today Dr. Jody DeShore. And I'm going to give you a little bit of her background here so you know who she is. And then we're going to dive into these subjects and these topics today. And then we know we only have an hour, so we'll get into everything as much as we can today. And then we're fortunate that Dr. DeShore is going to join us once a month over the next course of the few months following this. And we will dive deeper into each of these subjects as well. So make sure you stay tuned. Dr. Jody DeShore is an internationally recognized pioneering clinician in the all-natural plant-based treatment of autism, Lyme disease, mold biotoxin illnesses, PANS and PANDAS, nutrigenomics, and autoimmune illness. She works with children and adults in over 27 countries around the world, and Dr. DeShore is a board-certified doctor of occupational therapy, neurology, with a postdoctoral specialization in neurosensory. She is board-certified as a holistic health practitioner and board-certified as in integrative pediatrics. And her past training abroad includes specialization in pediatric neurology and multiple naturopathic disciplines in Bombay, UK, and the US. Dr. DeShore is currently pursuing her PhD and board certification in integrative medicine with a special interest in quantum physics. She is the founder of BioNexus Health Clinic in Marlborough, New Jersey, which is dedicated to plant-based and all-natural treatment methods. So I would like to introduce you to Dr. DeShore. Are you there, Dr. DeShore?
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for being here. You're a specialist in these areas, and I know that in your practice you found many of these, as they're called, comorbid symptoms that go along with autism in children, and a lot of the times these are completely missed, or their co-infections are really the culprit behind the symptoms of autism. So, can you maybe give us some background about things that you're finding in your practice and things that can be done for them as well, which we'll dive into deeper. But what do you find in your practice with these children who are diagnosed with the symptoms of autism?
Karen, as you know, I have, just like you, I have a personal experience with this with my son, who is now, just like your son, fully recovered from, a diagnosis of being on the spectrum. It was a long journey, but we learned a lot of valuable information along the way that has helped me help hundreds of other families worldwide. Once again, just like yourself, we do share those things in common, don't we?
Yes, we absolutely do. Being a parent of a child with autism is,
Yes.
I think, the way that you really live with it, you understand it to such a deeper level.
Yes. Autism is such a heartbreaking, scary, and unfortunately, nowadays it's everywhere. Almost everyone knows someone with autism. It's the latest statistics are completely off the charts. Now, there are so many deeper things that one needs to consider when a child receives a diagnosis of autism, is labeled as autism. One thing that people don't think of is autism, other than being, a syndrome, a diagnosis, a disease, it could actually be a symptom of something else going on deeper. There's not just one thing underlying, but there could be multifactorial issues that are going on underneath. I think it would be best if I illustrate this better with a patient story. In fact, Patrick and his mom, of course, the name has been changed. They came in for a follow-up appointment last week, and I have his story right in my mind. And if I may, I'll just proceed with that.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. Sorry, I have a little tickle. But, Patrick's mom is a dentist, and he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at 3 years old, vaccine injured, had sensory processing difficulties, also diagnosed with ADD. But overall, what Monica noticed was that her son was very bright. He was her firstborn. He was very bright. He would like to approach other children socially, but somehow he was unable to articulate due to lack of language skills, due to some behavioral issues with anger. And what she did was, after she recovered from the initial shock of receiving this, I believe the word she used was life sentence. She went into depression. It was a family. Pretty much a family show of strength that encouraged her to research in depth, and they decided to go for stem cells right away. So stem cells they felt would be a life-changing approach for them, and they actually went through 4 rounds of stem cells. And as you know, Karen, it is extremely cost prohibitive. There is a lot of travel involved. There's a lot of sacrifices that parents make when they take their children for stem cells, and there's a lot of hope. What she also did was she incorporated biomedical protocols, what used to be known as the DAN protocol in diet, nutrition. All in all, they saw great short-term gains, but nothing long-term seemed to stick. He would go for speech therapy. He would go for sensory integration. Amazing response. Therapists would be very helpful, but there was no generalization. And as you will see, as I proceed with the case study, you will see how things kind of unfolded for this family, which seems to be a common thread with almost 100% of children on the spectrum that I see in my practice. It was very similar with my own son as well. They also saw an awesome gastroenterologist. Children on the spectrum have a lot of GI issues, a lot of immune issues. As you mentioned, heavy metal issues, also mitochondrial issues. So all of these were being addressed. She saw a great autism GI doc with wonderful short-term gains. She even tried conventional anti-inflammatories, but somehow at that point it seemed mysterious that inflammation in the gut through endoscopies and colonoscopies that were done on Patrick, it just wouldn't stay down. And finally, Patrick's gut and his small bowel and large bowel stopped responding to conventional anti-inflammatories, localized, steroids. So when we, what I'd like to illustrate is what happened next. And I believe we have to go to a commercial break soon. So I'll wind up my thoughts and just briefly mention that when I saw Patrick a couple months ago, he is now 18 years old.
Wow.
And,
okay, we need to take a quick break, and I'm sure everybody can't wait to hear that. Please stay tuned with us. This is Karen Thomas at Naturally Recovering Autism on the Bold Brave Media, and we will be right back after this short break.
The earliest human societies worshipped a female goddess. Little is known about this time because we did not always have a written recorded history. It was around 3100 BC when the Sumerians invented the first written language, and everything that preceded this time is prehistory. The prehistorical record includes all of women's unwritten history from 30,000 BC to the time that men began achieving political power around 3000 BC. Male feminist artist Kimberly Berg maintains a strong position in educating and inspiring both men and women through his devotional art to the goddess in all women. Studying their history is paramount to understanding who women were and who they would become later living in a patriarchal society. To learn more about this important time in our history, go to www.isisrising.net.
Do you ever wonder why certain things are happening in your life? How to start a business or a new direction? Need answers? Astrologer Bonnie Prabula can help you reveal your true self and gain strength and focus so you can achieve greater joy and success. Working with a natal birth date, time, and location, Bonnie brings out qualities to aid you in getting the best from your life. She can help you unlock dormant traits to bring you greater awareness. Bonnie also conducts public speaking engagements to educate aspiring astrologers on their journey to the stars. A gifted artist, Bonnie bridges her talents and recently launched a line of Astro Bears, uniquely created in colors of individuals' astrology charts. She also makes one-of-a-kind necklaces of crystal beads and woven thread. To learn more about the world of Bonnie Prabula, go to bonniegprabula.com, and for astrology consulting, visit astrologyconsultants.com or call or email her at 808-526-1536 or bonniegp@aol.com.
Hi there, and welcome back to Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm your host, Karen Thomas, and we're coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media Network, and we have Dr. Jody DeShore with us today. And if you're here before the break, Dr. DeShore was beginning to tell us about one of her patients, Patrick, again, name changed, but we'd love to hear what you saw change in Patrick, because of course you mentioned too that the parents were doing a lot of things, but they were only seeing short-term gains. And that's what a lot of parents think. What am I missing? What's the missing piece? Mm-hmm. So go ahead and continue with where you were at with your story there. Yes,
absolutely. So this was, like I said, when I saw Patrick a couple months ago, he was 18 years old already now, a wonderful child, very well behaved. Minimal behavioral issues. He did struggle still with anger and temper tantrums and a little bit of aggression, but very well aware of his surroundings, fairly good eye contact, fairly good with his activities of daily living, very bright in school. And as I mentioned, his mother has put in so much into him, both as a medical professional, Monica being a dentist. What really broke my heart, and also in a way didn't surprise me, because I went through similar challenges, lack of awareness with my own son, was 10 years ago, Karen. This was 10 years ago, when they had blown through all of their savings with stem cells, and she still saw very limited gains, some gains in language. Most of the gains that mom saw was with her biomedical approach, with, her ABA, with her therapies. But again, they didn't really stick or generalize. So she read somewhere about, this is when Patrick was 8 years old, almost 9, she said. She read up about Lyme disease, about biotoxin illness, about mold, about immune suppression, IgMs and IgGs, and she decided to take this research to her Dan doctor, who was also her pediatrician. Now, this wonderful and kind physician was kind enough to run all the labs for her, but, unknowingly, not being aware and not understanding the immense immune suppression that is caused by Lyme disease, it was, he told the mother that Patrick was negative. And that was that. Mom was, once again, she's like, I did the best I could. I did all due diligence. I mean, she ran the entire panel for Shoemaker Labs, and I'd like to say something here. We have Dr. Klinghardt, we have Dr. Richie Shoemaker. These people are amazing physicians, absolutely brilliant researchers. We also had Dr. Trifoletti, Dr. Jones, Dr. Bradstreet coming out with all these novel approaches and all of this research up around 10, 12 years ago. So it was just the beginning. Our children were at the forefront of this, and there was limited research, limited awareness amongst other physicians. So when she brought Patrick to me a couple months ago and she showed me these labs, I mean, she almost didn't bring the labs, Karen. She's like, these are labs from 10 years ago. We've been there. We've done that. Right now, this is what's happening. I'm having sleep issues. He's not growing. He's losing weight. He can't seem to gain weight. His GI inflammation is off the charts. I don't really know what to do anymore. His insomnia, his hyperactivity. He's got this red rash all over his body. So his thyroid was tanking when I saw him a couple months ago. So Monica heard about me from a friend of hers whose child on the spectrum I have helped recover. So that's why he was here. And she showed me these labs, Karen. And I was really shocked because in reality, 10 years ago, this poor kid was positive. He was positive for Lyme. He was positive for mold. His Marcons were positive. He was positive for multiple viruses, for mycoplasma pneumonia, and that was all, that just went unnoticed.
Because of the practitioner just wasn't able to read the test results properly, or were they not?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yes. That's why I tell people that you've really got to know where to get the tests done, the proper labs, that's another thing, and the right practitioners to read these things. So 10 years prior that he could have been shown, they could have been shown, because a lot of times too with the Western blood test and various things that they do to test, they will come up negative even when they are positive. But there are other markers that some people are aware to at least be able to look for.
Right. And there are other labs that some people are aware of, and again, 10 years ago, there was some awareness of these specialized labs. Now, however, the labs don't always come up completely negative. Because of the immune suppressing nature of the spirochete or Lyme bacteria, even some of the co-infections that show up with Lyme disease, like Bartonella babesia, those are immune suppressing as well. They are also not just immune suppressing, Karen, they're also immune evading. So there are multiple host immune system evasion mechanisms, avoidance mechanisms, also transformation mechanisms in play when it comes to these powerful bacteria, when it comes to these powerful infections being acquired. And turns out that Monica had acquired multiple tick bites because she was the outdoorsy type. She would go hiking. In fact, she had taken the entire family was very health oriented. They grew up in Colorado, and biking and hiking, climbing, being outside in nature, camping. This was all part of their lifestyle. And Monica confirmed that she did have multiple tick attachments, as did her husband. Her husband had, I believe, only one tick attachment prior to Patrick being born. So we shall discuss a little bit more about in utero transfer and the sexual transfer of Lyme disease as well a little bit later. But for now, what I'd like to stress on was the doctor did do the Western blot for this family, but it was the interpretation that was the issue.
Right. So that's where we want to let people know too exactly where, and we'll give links and everything to where you can reach Dr. DeShore. And I've got a step-by-step program as well. We need to take a quick break, and we're going to be right back and continue on with these comorbid symptoms of autism. This is Naturally Recovering Autism, and we're coming from the Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio. We'll be right back.
Essential Nutrients LLC is the brainchild of entrepreneur Barbara Burns. Inspired by a desire to help others, Barbara worked with a team of scientists to develop unique nutritional liquid supplements with the goal to improve the quality of your life. Glucosamine, zinc, and calcium are essential to well-being, and this is the focus of Essential Nutrients LLC. Whether you're a professional athlete, weekend warrior, student, business owner, or homemaker, Essential Nutrients offers products for everyone, including the family pet. And they're easy to take, no pills. Health requires commitment, exercise, a good diet, proper supplementation, and action. So take action today and get your supply of essential liquid nutrients by visiting www.essential-liquids.com. Don't put off your health any longer. Take essential products today and start to measure the difference.
Unleash the obstacles that bind you with certified professional coach Joanne Charette, a master practitioner in energy leadership. Joanne can help you break through personal and professional barriers and guide you to a higher level of empowerment and fulfillment. Passionate and dedicated, Joanne engages with her clients on a mutual journey. Her dynamic energy will motivate you to move forward as you partner on a venture to greater results. Isn't it time to make a breakthrough and commit to live the life you deserve? Invest in yourself and let Joanne Charette be the catalyst to the realization of your dreams by making them a reality. Based in Quebec, Canada, Joanne is also a space coach, using social media and Skype to work with anyone, anywhere around the world. Contact Joanne Charette today at 819-360-3266 or email her at actionrealization@live.ca. 819-360-3266. Now is your time.
And we're back. This is Naturally Recovering Autism, and I'm your host, Karen Thomas. We're coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio. And our guest today is Dr. Jody DeShore, and we are discussing the comorbid symptoms of autism. And right now, we're on the topic of Lyme's disease and how it can be passed in utero from mother to baby. And we were talking about some tests. Dr. DeShore, you were mentioning that this child 10 years prior had some tests done that were deemed negative. Can you give us a little bit more about why those tests were seen as negative when they were actually positive?
Yes, exactly. I will. So Patrick's Lyme testing was done through the national labs, Quest, LabCorp, et cetera, not through a specialized lab that is trained to look specifically for all of the bands on the Western blot. As I mentioned before, due to the immune suppression issues with Lyme disease, most of the testing can be unreliable. And also, Lyme disease lives in the connective tissue, doesn't necessarily live in the blood. So sometimes one needs specialized techniques to look at it. So for Patrick, his band 41 and band 39 were positive. However, the other bands were not showing up. This is why it was deemed negative, but any ILATS-trained practitioner, any Lyme literate practitioner understands that band 41 and band 39 can be pretty significant. In fact, band 41, is a cross-reactive band. In my practice, what I see is if the immune system has enough oomph left to even give us that information, that is some information that the practitioner needs to hold on to and understand. So when I see band 41, in fact, Karen, for my own son, when he couldn't walk and he was in a wheelchair, we did 10 Lyme tests, 10 Western blots. They all came up as false negative, and they were interpreted as false negative. Yeah, and I wasn't Lyme literate way back then, and I kind of believed my Harvard-trained orthopedic surgeon, very kind doctor, brilliant physician, trying to help, but again, lack of awareness.
Right.
And what I saw back then was band 41 was consistently positive for my son as well. And what I've learned in my practice and what I see is anytime this cross-reactive band shows up, children have underlying multiple other bacterial like Mycoplasma pneumonia, Chlamydia pneumonia, parvovirus, HHV6, sometimes Epstein-Barr, cytomegalovirus. I also see toxoplasmosis. Sometimes that comes up positive, and mostly these families have pets. So for Patrick, his band 41 was positive, and his band 39. Now, what I see when I see anybody, children or adults, with band 39, there seems to that indicates a lot of autoimmune issues, or at least potential for Lyme triggering some sort of autoimmunity in this person. So that is the significance of these two specific bands that I see in my practice, that I've learned through my experience. But again, 2 bands positive is not enough to deem someone, officially positive. So so he fell through the cracks. His MARCONS was, the actual MARCONS was negative. However, he showed up for additional 2 or 3 bacteria, gram-negative, large amount. And what I see in my practice when I do a nasal swab and, usually, not usually, I should say, 60% of the time with the first swab, I see all of these other colonizations. And what I've learned is this is most probably due to biofilm. It is your sinuses. There's a lot of mucus, and it's kind of not that hard for the staph bacteria to have material to form the biofilm. So I start them right.
I'm sorry, just briefly, for the listeners, they're probably wondering what MARCONS is. They might not be aware. It's an antibiotic-resistant staph that lives in the nasal passages. And we're going to get into the mold biotoxin piece here soon, but that is a very common symptom with some of these mold issues as well, that there will be staphylococcal infection living in the nasal passageways. So that's what the MARCONS is. So I'm sorry, go ahead. I just wanted to make sure our listeners knew what you were talking about.
Right. I'm sorry, Karen. Yeah, no, I should have explained. Yeah, a MARCON stands for a multiple antibiotic resistant coagulase negative staph. Many people understand MRSA. MRSA is only resistant to one antibiotic. MRSA is methicillin resistant Staph aureus, whereas MARCONS is staph that is gram-negative, and it is resistant to multiple. The highest I've seen a child being resistant, the staph in the sinuses being resistant to 11 antibiotics. That is a very strong resistant bacterial overgrowth. Staph, strep, etc., they do live in the sinuses, a small amount that is quite normal to find, but when you have autism, when you have immune suppression, when you have documented mold exposure, when you have underlying Lyme disease, it's a pretty important, a pretty huge piece to the recovery, being able to recover from the symptomatic picture of autism. One needs to look at all of these small pieces. I mean, small, by no means small, they're pretty huge, but there are so many of them. So Patrick ended up being eventually, when I retested him this time, his MARCONS were off the charts, even though back then with the other overgrowth, it was never addressed. He also had Mycoplasma. However, he had IgG was very high, even though the lab itself deemed it as positive. The labs will give you certain antibody ranges that if the numbers are between this and this, even though it's IgG, it's deemed as positive or chronic ongoing, or the infection that the immune system has not been able to deal with. Now, Patrick was diagnosed with cough gradient asthma, which is asthma on exertion. And you know what, Karen? It actually turned out it was Mycoplasma.
Wow.
That was the real culprit.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, let's talk about a little bit more about these symptoms and what parents can look for, because they also are going to want to know what to do. So we're going to take a quick break. This is Naturally Recovering Autism and on the Bold Brave Media, and stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Animal lover, author, artist, and public speaker, Patricia Daly-Lipe is a Renaissance woman in her own right. A lover of animals from a young age, Patricia lives on a farm in Virginia and has rescued neglected thoroughbred horses, keeping them or finding them safe havens. She is also a published author, and her books document real-life experiences that she shares in her passionate stories, taking the reader around the world in a colorful kaleidoscope of life. An accomplished artist, Patricia Daly-Lipe's oil paintings feature animals, portraits, stills, nature, and abstract, and she allows the brush to paint the image in an organic, natural way. A public speaker, Patricia is motivated to continually wonder about life and advocates for all of us to do the same and document our own unique history. To learn more about Patricia Daly-Lipe, visit www.literarylady.com and www.patricialipe.com or email her at pdlipe@gmail.com.
Hello, I'm Steve Fagan, and I'm president and CEO of Fagan Associates, but I'm also a life coach. I'm here to help you reach your dreams, goals, and objectives. As a life coach, it's my job to be your support, to be your teammate, to help you understand what is your dream, what is your life passion, and then together we work as that team to help you reach your specific goals. Life is worth living the best you can be. Working with a life coach, you're fulfilling those dreams and goals is your passion, and it's your way of living. Let me help you do that today. Let me help you really reach the best that you can be as a person and live the life you should be living. I'm Steve Fagan. I'm a life coach, and I'm here for you.
Contact Steve Fagan at FaganandAssociatesInc.com or call 1-800-239-2701.
And I'll be glad to help you move forward to live the life of success. Reach your dreams, your goals, your objectives. We can do it together.
Hi there, and welcome back. This is your host, Karen Thomas, and we are at Naturally Recovering Autism, coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio. And today we have Dr. Jody DeShore with us, and we are discussing the comorbid symptoms of autism. And one of those that we're on right now that we're discussing is Lyme. And so, Dr. DeShore, you were giving us an example of this boy, Patrick, who had symptoms of asthma, and it came back as mycoplasma. So maybe you could give us a little bit of background on that, and also things like Lyme hides. I know Lyme hides and parasites. So some of the symptoms and other things that people can look for, but asthma is very common. So Patrick had asthma, and it was coming from mycoplasma. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, Karen. Mycoplasma pneumoniae is, it's a kind of atypical bacteria that causes what is called as walking pneumonia. Many people may have heard about walking pneumonia, but they may not have heard about the culprit that is mycoplasma. Now, this bacteria, you'll see it when like some children when they get a cold, it always becomes a chest cold, and or when they recover from a common cold or the flu, I'll hear from parents that that the dry cough lasted forever, the cough lasted for a month, and it is mycoplasma infection is supposed to be in a typical kid. Supposed to be a self-limiting infection that should be handled by the immune system. But here we go again with the immune system, right? If immune system is suppressed, and there are many, many research studies that show that immune system is a major player, major culprit in what is known as autism. And when the immune system is further compromised by all of the other co-infections that we spoke about, then it becomes very difficult for the body to get rid of infections like mycoplasma. So Patrick was this actually happened to my son as well. Like, Patrick was misdiagnosed with asthma. It was very surprising that the immunologist did not check for mycoplasma, but I guess there was no reason for him to, or lack of awareness once again. But, they do these specific asthma tests. They ask you to go on the computer, blow out the candles, and then they put you on steroids, and voila, you recover. So Patrick had been on steroids for about 4 years when I saw him a few months ago, and we ran additional labs, and the LLMD he's seeing now is much more educated, but mom wanted to do natural protocols, and hence she came to me. But all in all, this is what happened with Patrick was his asthma for so many years, and so many years of nebulizer steroids and albuterol, levobuterol, which are nebulizer bronchodilator medicines that are used to help control the symptoms of asthma. He hasn't needed them in about 3 months now. So for the first time since he was diagnosed with this cough gradient asthma, he has not been on a nebulizer, and he's able to breathe well. He does have some babesia, which we will talk about co-infection, and some mold-related damage to the mucosal lining of his lungs, but he doesn't need any medications for that. In fact, he's just doing nebulizing saline just to calm things down. And we shall talk about many treatment options. I believe, Karen, we had said, in the upcoming episodes when I come back on again. But yes, that was about mycoplasma for Patrick. So.
Is it simple enough to give a little taste of what, because I know you're coming back, let's see, August 21st, you'll be with us again. But is there something that, I know we don't have a lot of time, if we could say something about what you did for the treatment of mycoplasma, what types of things, or is that too lengthy to get into right now? Like what you were able to do for Patrick?
Yes, what I'll do is I'll list the infections, the co-infections we found in Patrick eventually when like a couple months ago, when we did run the labs again and a clear picture emerged as to what's going on with him and what's causing all of his symptoms. Yes, I'll be happy to just give you a brief overall view of the protocol that I put him on. What I wanted to tell you was, it's very interesting because I mentioned, right, that Patrick's mycoplasma and other infection titers were high IgGs. And even now, when Patrick's pediatrician, he doesn't have an LLMD. He has a pediatrician, and I've referred him to an LLMD, but, we're still waiting for that appointment for them. But his pediatrician, very, very kind doctor, once I explained what I was trying to do and that, I was the holistic consultant on his team, very kind enough to run all the labs. And one of the latest, one of the new research studies that's out on PubMed is about humoral and cellular immunity in children with mycoplasma. That I just read a few days ago. Is mycoplasma subverts the immune system. So what you may have that looks like a negative or old infection with only IgG coming up and not IgM, the IgG, meaning the infection, keeps increasing over time, and it just leads the doctors to falsely believe that the immune system has handled the infection, whereas it really has been subverted by this smart bacteria to evade being killed by the IgM antibodies, the IgM immunoglobulins, which are the first line of defense. So the IgMs never show up as positive.
It's amazing how these bacteria actually have an intelligence, and they create what biofilm is. They create that protective biofilm is this very protective coating that they develop around themselves and groups of cells of themselves, and it can be very hard to break through if you don't know how to work with it properly. So a lot of things are antibiotic resistant. So we need to take a quick break right now. This is Naturally Recovering Autism. I'm Karen Thomas, and we are coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media with Dr. DeShore, and we'll be right back after this quick break with more on these comorbid symptoms. Stay tuned.
My Dreams, My Challenges, and Joys is an inspiring book by author Linda Genazzo. This real-life account of raising a child with autism from birth to adulthood takes you on a journey of compassion, love, and hope as it tells the incredible story of a devoted family and their beloved daughter. Together, they faced adversity and never stopped believing they would find the help they were seeking. A breast cancer survivor, Linda Genazzo has a giving heart. With a background in social work with the mentally ill and the homeless, Linda continues to help families in her community, and her book, My Dreams, My Challenges and Joys, brings greater awareness to autism and those families in need. To purchase your copy, visit www.lindagenazzo.com. It's also available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Don't delay. Get your copy today. Jenny Friend is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified clinical sexologist, commonly known as a sex therapist, with over 30 years of experience in the field of sexuality. She's been a researcher and teacher and is further trained in human development over the lifespan. She's also a published author and a radio personality. Her specialized training in lifespan developments means she can help individuals, couples, and families through difficult developmental phases. Her primary ways of working are through the tools of cognitive, behavioral, and psychoenergetics theories and techniques. Couples, individual men and women, and families are also welcome. She can meet in her office in Costa Mesa, California, or on the internet through Skype at Jenny Friend MFT. Call 714-210-9200. You can also send an email from her website at www.centerforclarity.org. That phone number again is 714-210-9200.
Hi there, and welcome back again. This is Naturally Recovering Autism. I am your host, Karen Thomas, and we're coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio. Today we have Dr. Jody DeShore with us, and we're discussing the comorbid symptoms of autism, including Lyme disease and mold biotoxins. And we were just getting into a little bit about once the labs are completed for, especially for Lyme's disease, many things have been missed in the past by especially just, unknowing practitioners, et cetera. So, when they show up, we want to know, like, what were they, how are they treated? And I know that you and I both, Dr. DeShore, are very much about natural alternatives to treatment rather than drug approaches that can, sometimes cause more harm and won't actually get through many of these antibiotics. They're antibiotic resistant bacteria that we're talking about. That means that they cannot be penetrated by antibiotics. So we need to also find other alternatives rather than just, the antibiotics are going to destroy more of the good gut bacteria, and these kids are already deficient. So can you give us a little background on, once the labs are found, the lab results are there, what you do and what kind of natural alternatives that you have used for treatment?
Yes, absolutely. What I'd like to do is name the infection, since we are following Patrick's case for illustration purposes. It would be good for parents to listen to the co-infections that are possible in just one child that keep growing over the years. And there is, a lot of information out there online that they could research a little bit on their own as well. This way, we are empowering the parents to get some more information for themselves. So the infections that we found, all in all, once all of the testing was done, Now, mind you, this is a child on the spectrum, so we were dealing with adrenal insufficiency, immune deficiency, mitochondrial issues, heavy metal toxicity, but that had been more or less dealt with. And of course, these things don't really get completely dealt with if there are underlying infections and biotoxin issues going on. So we are going to have to deal with these issues to a small extent all over again. But infections, right? Borreliosis or Lyme disease, Bartonella Hensley, Bartonella bacilliformis. He also had Babesia duncani and HHV6, Epstein-Barr. We had a positive for parvovirus. We had a positive for intestinal parasites. We had a positive for beta and gamma strep in the gut, which came up very high amounts. His SIBO or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth was negative. Karen, you spoke briefly about parasites and Lyme disease in order to evade the immune system hiding inside the parasites. That is correct. There is research, especially Dr. Alan McDonald, the illustrious Dr. Alan McDonald, who has researched a lot about Lyme disease and its immune evasion mechanisms. And what has been shown is tick-borne infections like Lyme disease, Bartonella babesia, especially Lyme, can act as an endosymbiont, meaning they can hide inside larger organisms like parasites and worms. And one of the important things to treat and to look for would be parasites and yeast and biofilms. This becomes important. Keep in mind also that mold exposure in Patrick's old house, where he was born and where they lived for the first, I believe, 9 or 10 years of his life. It was a water-damaged home in the attic as well as the basement. They had a 2-zone AC, and Mom informed me that they had remediated, but his markers were very high. Often people end up having a slow leak, which lasts for months, and by the time the leak forms this bubble in the ceiling, etc. It's already formed black mold on the sheetrock, on the underside of the sheetrock. So that is not much anybody can do about that. It's a very unfortunate circumstance. Then we also did a genetic typing for this family to see what kind of genetic predisposition to mold, or the HLA type for mold and chronic Lyme, for sinus infections, MARCoNS, etc., for detoxification. And the family did have compromised mechanisms. They also had methylation concerns in the family. They had MTHFR mutations, as did Patrick, of course. So Mom was very distraught. She's like, I'm being a practitioner, being a dentist, she felt that she should have known better, she should have researched more, and it happens very often. And I know you must experience that as well, but I did have to, tell her not to beat herself up too much, because she did find for him, right? It really isn't too late, because these infections are strong. They have multi-system implications. So, it's never too late to treat these infections. One always sees a lot of benefit. So how does one treat them? One brief thing that I'd like to mention is it would be good to also research PANS. PANDAS is usually when strep is the main culprit, or perhaps the only culprit, but PANS is the pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric syndrome, which is where the immune system attacks the brain, the basal ganglia in the brain, because of course it's upregulated and dysregulated and suppressed and just very confused and damaged at that point. So it's the phenomenon of molecular mimicry which happens in the brain of these children. And many many symptoms like brain fog and depression and mood disorders and sensory issues and OCD and motor tics and ADD, ADHD, vision problems, lots of behavioral problems, you name it, Karen.
This is fascinating. We're going to take a quick break. This is Naturally Recovering Autism on Bold Brave Media and TuneIn Radio, and we're going to be right back and complete and finish this conversation. Stay tuned.
Renaissance woman, trailblazer, maverick. Those are just some of the words to describe Tashandra Poulard, owner and CEO of House of Virgo Entertainment, LLC, a woman minority veteran-owned entertainment company based in Washington, D.C. Ms. Poulard served 10 years honorably in the United States Navy and departed from active duty to pursue her dreams of becoming an entertainment mogul. House of Virgo Entertainment offers script writing, producing, directing, DJ services, editing, and more. They cater to businesses, corporations, college students, working professionals, aspiring artists, and nonprofit organizations, and employ veterans of the armed forces. Tashandra Poulard is pioneering the way we view media and taking her brand global. Visit her at www.houseofvirgoentertainment.com or call 281-515-3740 and like her on Facebook at House of Virgo Entertainment, LLC.
Certified professional coach Pamela Reeves can help you with your relationships. Motivational and image coaching are just some of the ways she can help you enhance all aspects of your life. Her book, Is It Love or Merely a Sick Attachment?, helps readers clearly distinguish healthy, loving relationships from toxic ones. Ms. Reeves has put her words into action through Ray of Hope Kenya, an international initiative that provides outreach to victims of abusive relationships there with the goal of helping them rebuild their lives and the tools to avoid abuse. Ms. Reeves operates various business interests through her umbrella network, Nella LLC, and credits her success to her diverse work experience. Whatever your goals, whether striking a balance, reinventing your image, or simply lifting your lifestyle, Pamela Reeves will help you achieve them. Your life, your call. Dial 410-902-5715 or email Pamela at pamrego1@verizon.net. She's also on the web at pamreeves.com and on Twitter at Pamela_Reeves.
Hi, and welcome back. This is Karen Thomas, and we are coming to you live from the Bold Brave Media, and it's Naturally Recovering Autism. We've been discussing the comorbid symptoms today with Dr. Jody DeShore, and we are just about at the end of our hour. We want to make sure that we're going to give you some other things that we're going to be able to go more in depth with all of the things that we talked about in this episode, in future episodes. So please stay tuned. I also briefly want to mention that Dr. DeShore, I interviewed her recently on my podcast. So if you go to naturallyrecoveringautism.com, click on podcast, and you'll be able to get a little bit more information from that podcast, but also the links to how to reach Dr. DeShore and to the mold biotoxin stuff, some of the things that we talked about. There's more resources underneath that video there on that page. And then also I have interviewed Paula Vetter, who's an expert specifically on the mold biotoxins, and it's also there in that podcast, another one there at naturallyrecoveringautism.com. So you will be able to get those resources before having to wait another month and another month, because I know you're probably eager to know a little bit more. Right now, Dr. DeShore, would you go ahead and we'll talk about a little bit of some of the things that are needing to be addressed, before, of course, they're just the surface, but then, of course, we'll be going into more depth in these in subsequent episodes in the future here, too.
Yes, sure, Karen. It's important to keep in mind that multiple organ systems are affected by these comorbid infections. So one needs to have a broad spectrum approach. And with me, it is a completely natural plant-based approach with herbs and homotoxicology and cellular homeopathy. One has to address, nutritional deficiencies that are caused by so many infections in the body. We have to make sure there's minerals, B vitamins, magnesium. We look at methylation issues. We look at detoxification, toxin binders. We go for systemic antibiotic herbs. Herbs that act systemically are able to cross the blood-brain barrier. So you need to make sure that your practitioner is well aware of that. Then there are specific herbal protocols that are used for each co-infection, which which are very helpful. It's very amazing. It's quite amazing to see the recovery that these children are capable of. It's often astounding. My website is bionexushealth.com, and there are some stories. There are some YouTube videos that are available of some recovery stories. So by all means, I would encourage parents to read and look up all of these resources that you have provided. And Karen, your website has absolutely amazing resources as well.
Thank you. I try. My goal is to help parents. I mean, as some of you may know, I also recovered my son from his symptoms of autism after being told he could not, recover. And so once he did, I had gathered all of these resources, and I knew that I had to share what I'd learned with other parents so that they could have the resources they needed to find out whatever their child's optimum recovery could be. So I've put a lot of great, there's a lot of free information there between my podcast and my blog, naturallyrecoveringautism.com. And I do have a step-by-step program that is now in 37 countries that is available as well for people who want to be, walked through the path. And Dr. DeShore, again, is at bionexushealth.com. Is there anything else that you'd like to share, Dr. DeShore, before we wrap up here? We just got about a minute or so left.
One important thing that I forgot to mention is there are herbs for everything, and herbs and other natural protocols that are available for every co-infection, for inflammation, for supporting the immune system, antibacterial herbs, antiviral, antifungal herbs. And we have absolutely fantastic protocols available. There really never is, or rarely, there is a need to go with, conventional medicine. Of course, if there's an acute problem, one needs to do what one needs to do. And You mentioned your son. That's the same with my son. He's fully recovered. We had some growth delays and hormonal issues. That's one other thing I wanted to mention was there's a lot of hormonal and endocrine problems that come with mold exposure, which we will talk about more in another program. But he is now in a pre-med high school. Wants to be a Lyme doctor.
Yeah, when they grow up having so much done for them, they realize what they could do for other people, and they become so knowledgeable. My son is away at college on his own, and he'll call me and said, "Is this a good ingredient in this food?" And I don't think so, and it's funny. But we've got to wrap up. Thank you so much, Dr. DeShore, for being with us today. Again, Dr. DeShore will be back with us next time. Will be August 21st. And please join us next week. I have a special guest also who is a water expert next week, Robert Slovak, and we will be discussing toxic water issues in and around your home, including your drinking water and your swimming pools.
You've been listening to Naturally Recovering Autism with your host, Karen Thomas. Listen each week and learn how you can provide your child a clear path for a happier and more fulfilling life on Karen Thomas's Naturally Recovering Autism.
You've been listening to the BBM Global Network. The ideas, views, and opinions of this broadcast are those of the participants of the program and are not necessarily the ideas, views, and opinions of the BBM Global Network Company.